Hi guys, MrRoflWaffles here. This is your no-nonsense news update for the new Verdansk teaser. We've got Raygun Mark 2 leaks in Black Ops 6. We've got stuff related to Apex Legends and Titanfall and Battlefield. Like, there's a whole bunch of other bits in here, trying to sort of broaden this out to not just be Call of Duty, but also every now and then slightly wider gaming news. So without further ado, let's get started with the Verdansk teaser itself. It's got a copyrighted song, so we're just going to mute it here and talk over it. But they've confirmed, as we all already knew, that Verdansk is returning on April 3rd, but we still don't have any word for whether or not we're getting a zombies map on April 3rd as well. But I saw a rumor saying that there was going to be a zombies map in the season, but it wasn't going to launch on the start of the season, and nor was it going to launch on the season reloaded, but it was just going to launch somewhere else in the season, which would be very strange. To be absolutely clear, this did come in from someone who sent me a DM on Twitter who asked to remain anonymous, so I don't know whether or not it's legit or not. I'm just passing on a message from the messenger there, but that would be very, very strange. Like, I don't think we've ever had that happen to a zombies map in this current sort of live service model for Call of Duty. So yeah, it would be odd, but as a single tear rolls down this soldier's face here, so too a single tear rolls down mine if we do indeed get a new zombies map, but it just doesn't clash with the Verdansk launch, right? Maybe it drops 1 week later or something. That honestly wouldn't be the end of the world, in my opinion. So that's the new Verdansk teaser. Let me know what you thought of it. And also let me know if you want me to cover Verdansk in any way. I'm not really a big Warzone guy, but I could dabble with it, or I could just keep doing the Destiny content that I've been doing. I mean, that's what this is. This is all Destiny content that I've been making, so just let me know what you want me to make in the comments below. Moving on, like I said, the Raygun Mark 2 is even more confirmed to be coming back to Black Ops 6. This is coming from Margwa, who is forwarding it from Founded here, and then Samuel has recorded emote footage. So if we just listen into this, you're going to be able to hear sound effects from this new skin called the Interstellar Outlaw, which is the same sort of thing that you can hear from the original Mark II. So let's listen. You hear the effects there, and then if we switch over, same thing. So, credit to the three people involved here, Margwa, Founded, and Samuel, for this one. This was a very, very good spot. Just kind of puts the nail in the coffin, really. We will be getting the Raygun Mark II back later this year, and there is another leak related to the Raygun Mark II, which is even more interesting because it seems like it's going to have variants, but we'll get to that in a moment. Now, while we're looking at Margwa here, I wanted to bring this back. So we talked in the last episode of No Nonsense News about the fact that there'd been this AI-generated zombies game posted on the official Activision channels, right? Call of Duty Zombie Defender, AI slop image, AI slop text, etc. One of the things that you guys posted in the comments once I covered this in a video was related to the LTM for this AI generated game called Tides of Terror. So we had a comment from Atlas of Eden who said, not to be that guy, but I'm pretty sure Tides of Terror, which the AI game is using, might be stepping on some toes. Maybe not legally, but I can definitely see some confusion when your bro says, hey, wanna play Tides of Terror? And then you gotta ask, wait, which do you mean? Skr or COD? And I didn't know that this was in Skr Ritual. So Skr Ritual is the game that, like, last year, a bunch of people were like, this is the COD Zombies killer. And they were sort of touting Skr as that. And so for Activision now to be taking the name of something from Skr Ritual and repurposing it in their AI slop so that if anybody ever searched Tides of Terror videos or something like that, this might be what comes up instead of Skr Ritual. Like, they might very sneakily be trying to prevent people from finding the Skr stuff in favor of finding the Activision advertising instead, which would be so evil. Like, that would be so unbelievably evil if that were what was going on here. And so I wanted to make sure I mentioned Atlas's comment because it's very perceptive if that is indeed the case, or it could just be a crazy coincidence. But in a world where Activision is as cutthroat as they are, do such coincidences exist? I'll leave you to be the judge of that one. And just for context here you can see Skr Ritual, Tides of Terror. It's got its own wiki page, like it's mentioned all over the place. New Skr Ritual, Tides of Terror, easy guide, like there's all sorts. So kind of crazy for Call of Duty to be stepping on toes, like Atlas said. Next, post from Hypes here that came up on my feed earlier today saying, it blows my mind we haven't seen him in game. Who's him? Who are they referring to? Well, they're referring to Nolan North. So in this Margwa tweet, it says that it's unconfirmed, and there's a Reddit thread about this, that Nolan North told a fan, "You're going to like the next few updates to zombies." And this comes from a fan that met Nolan North at Lexington Con. So their name is Outrageous Turnip 70, which is a fantastic name. I just want to give them a round of applause for a brilliant name there. So the Outrageous Turnip met Nolan, and Nolan said, "You might like those next updates." And this is in line with the sort of thing that Nolan North tends to do. He tends to be a little bit of a leaker. It's kind of weird. Like, you'd expect him to be very tight-lipped about everything, but when he meets fans at conventions, he does tend to kind of yap a little bit and say things to them, which is just funny that we've sort of had this pattern reform and form and form again over the years. And I don't know what he would be referring to with us liking the next few updates, but presumably that at least means that Richtofen is going to be involved in some capacity, which will be music to all of our ears. And it's also good news because that means that Richtofen hasn't been recast as part of the SAG-AFTRA negotiations, striking, etc., which I've already made a separate whiteboard video about. Now, in other leaks, sort of moving across the leaker landscape, we're moving away from Margwa here towards Reality, some of the stuff that Reality's posted recently, and then we're going to get to Ghost of Hope, 1 or 2 tweets from them as well. So starting with Reality's been tweeting a lot of weapon code names. And you know, I mentioned the Raygun a minute ago. We're going to come back to that here just in a second. So for Saturn, which I'm guessing from these tweets is what the codename is for Call of Duty 2025, also known as Black Ops 7, we've got a bunch of code names that have been tweeted out. So nothing too crazy interesting there, apart from the fact that you might recognize Zetron Roger, and you might think, wait, what is that? And then you might notice Zetron Raygun, and you might be like, wait a second, that sounds a little familiar. And Reality themselves have actually called this out, saying, I find it pretty interesting that we've got this SAT PI Zetron Raygun. What might that be, right? And very perceptively from Discount TV here, or Frog Count, they've said, isn't Zetron a codename for Dead Ops Arcade? And this is the first track title that Reality's been leaking, so they're not sure. But I believe, from doing my own research, that that is indeed the case. I believe that Frog is correct here. Zetron indicates Dead Ops Arcade, which would suggest Dead Ops Arcade is going to be returning in Black Ops 7, which will be releasing later this year. Which is kind of crazy because it wasn't in Black Ops 6. Like, we sort of missed out on Dead Ops in that game, and it's been a mainstay of Black Ops titles for so long that it was quite sad to not see it there, right? But maybe that's being remedied in this coming Call of Duty title. Maybe Jugga Jugga will be continuing to work on it. We will see. And in case any of you guys are not aware who Jugga Jugga is, David King, Jugga Jugga, is actually CTO. Wow, okay. I didn't know that he'd been promoted to that role. Maybe he's had that role for a while and I just didn't realize, but CTO at Treyarch, wow. And also the creator of Dead Ops Arcade. So he basically developed it way back in the day on his weekends, more or less, as a little bonus mode to throw into the early games. And so I'm excited to see, and you know what? Look, that's even Dead Ops as well. So I'm excited to see Dead Ops come back, if only just to see what David might have been cooking up in his spare time, separate to his overall development of the main game. We love David King in this household. So anyway, the fact that it's a Raygun for Dead Ops, okay, that's fine, no worries, but there's some other Raygun mentions coming here as well. So there's weapon codenames for COD 2026, which seems to be codename Rex right now, so Saturn and then Rex. But if we move on to Warzone, looking at the Warzone codenames, the Raygun Mark II in there is referred to with 3 different additional letters. So similar to some of the other leaks that we've had earlier this year for various things that have variants or perks, for example, perk beginning with D, presumably double tap, etc. We now have a similar situation happening with the Raygun Mark II. So they are currently named P, R, and W. And I've seen some speculation in the comments down here that P could be purple or pink, R could be red, and then W could be what? I think that is an absolute stretch, seeing as it's probably going to be consistent across the 3 things. It could be that it's purple, red, and white, potentially. That would make more sense to me. Or maybe it's not colors at all. Either way, let me know what you think might possibly be the answer to what these variants are going to be. And it's kind of interesting to think that we might have 3 Raygun variants rather than 4. Like 4 would make sense because it would be kind of Alpha Omega-y. And we tend to have 4 variants of things, 4 elemental staves, 4 this, 4 that. So 3 is a little odd, but let me know what you think those might be in the comments down below. Now, moving on, I mentioned that we would come to some stuff from Hope here. This is actually about a week old now, but I did want to just give it a quick mention because it's some details for Modern Warfare 4 coming out in 2026. It's not going to have old gen support, which is a big deal that is worth kind of praising at this point, to be honest, in my view, because it's going to mean that that game's going to be able to develop new features that would otherwise be impossible to develop if they were still hamstrung by the old consoles. And it's going to have a traditional UI. The engine's going to be overhauled. Supposedly, it's being developed right now on dev kits for the next Xbox, and no Warzone 3 if Verdansk fails to retain current and returning players. And this is probably the biggest news story out of all of this. Obviously, development for the next Xbox is exciting because that means that we might have an entire console refresh next year or the year after next, depending on various factors. But the no Warzone 3 thing is very interesting because Warzone has been Call of Duty's cash cow for the last couple of years. And while the mainline Call of Duties have had one or two, I don't want to say full missteps, but one or two wobbles over the last few years, Warzone has kind of been there to help bolster things. And if they were to basically cull Warzone and get rid of it just because this new Verdansk map wasn't up to par and didn't retain players, that would completely open the floodgates to totally new methods of development for the rest of Call of Duty. Right now, for example, Modern Warfare Zombies, right, from Modern Warfare 3, the remaster, that only exists in the form that it does because Warzone exists, and Warzone requires these big maps like Urzikstan to be being made, right? And if you take away the Warzone, do you take away the big maps? And does that mean that we just stop going in that direction? Does that mean that all of the tech that they've built around that just gets deprecated? Like, that has massive consequences for zombies and might honestly be why we've seen round-based come back to the fore in this year's Call of Duty, and why there's rumors that round-based maps are going to be also playable in next year's Call of Duty. So in Black Ops 7, we might be able to play the Black Ops 6 Zombies maps just because maybe Treyarch and Activision anticipate that ultimately we're not going in the direction of Warzone anymore, and so we want to get people hooked back on that old formula, and it's important to kind of build their trust in that again. Maybe. We really don't know at this point. It's all up in the air, but I thought this was a very interesting sentence to add on to the end of this tweet here from Hope. Now, speaking of games industry, big shifts and stuff along those lines, a new FPS game from Apex Legends and Titanfall developer Respawn has been cancelled. The game was scrapped before it even got revealed to the public, and we don't know if this was Titanfall 3 or if it was something else, but as far as I'm concerned, this is very unfortunate, but it is also something that happens in game development all the time, so I wouldn't freak out about this too much. There are constantly new, nascent, early stage projects that are basically pitches that get worked on for a little bit and then they get cancelled and worked on for a bit and get cancelled. And that happens at so many different developers because it's a lot of how they'll ideate on whatever their future things are going to be is by basically making these thrusts in different directions with these very early stage projects. So I don't think that there's any critique needed of Apex or of Titanfall or Respawn or of EA or anyone here. I think it's just sort of interesting to note that they were working on something, and who knows, maybe one day it will come out that it was Titanfall 3, and if that was the case, I will be very sad that we lost it. But in the meantime, I thought that that was just worth mentioning as a little tidbit. And while we're on the topic of this news, I would really love to get your opinion, and this is probably the most important please leave a comment thing that I've mentioned for this whole video. Are you interested in the idea of me threading in little bits of wider games industry news like this into these videos? Like, if it's a video that is still 50+% Call of Duty focused, like it's still our bread and butter stuff, but then at the same time, if I kind of get you guys aware of various other bits and pieces that are either happening in my life or in just the wider games industry, is that something you're going to be interested in or not really? As an example, I went to the Sidemen charity match over the weekend. I got stuck inside Wembley Stadium. Like, I was literally in the back rooms. It looked like this. It was crazy. I've got a full vlog about this coming up very soon. That's going to be probably posted tonight or tomorrow. Like, I was in the basement of Wembley on my own, just roaming around. It was wild. This tweet has 156,000 likes. It's my biggest tweet ever. It is insane. So whether it's stories like this from my personal life, or whether it's just things that are happening in the broader games industry, like the Apex tweet that we just looked at a second ago, would that be something that you guys would be open to, or would you rather it just be Call of Duty focused? I'd love to hear your thoughts. For now though, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you very soon for the vlog from Wembley Stadium, amongst many other videos that we have planned for this week. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.